and they actually penetrated this small door. They found a hidden room within the pyramid.
Egyptologists are very much fond of saying that pyramids are tombs and that they have been robbed at some point in the past.
For centuries, the structure stood in silence, studied, measured, explained away. Scholars called it ceremonial. Engineers called it primitive. But what if it was neither? An advanced AI processed every inscription, every fracture line, every celestial alignment, and discovered a repeating signal pulsing beneath the stone. Steady, rhythmic, intentional.
A team of engineers uses a remotely operated camera in an attempt to discover the true function of what is believed to be an air shaft.
Who designed a monument that mirrors the sky with impossible precision, synchronized to cycles we're only now beginning to understand? And if it was built to transmit something, who decided it should stop? And the real question, was it ever truly silent? Or have we just learned how to listen? Subscribe and join us as we decode the monuments that were never meant to stay silent. AI's assistance in Egyptology. In March of 2025, a research team made a claim that sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. They said the Khafra Pyramid at Giza was not just a monument of stone, but a marker for something far larger hidden below. What made this exploration intriguing was that the researchers did not set foot in Egypt or even touch a single grain of sand from the region. Instead, they looked down from orbit, using satellites operated by companies such as Capella Space and Umbra. The team fired radar pulses at the Giza Plateau. The method, known as Doppler tomography, allowed them to scan deep beneath the surface. Professor Malanga compared it to an ultrasound, except this time the waves were radar and the body being examined was solid rock. Granite, the dense stone used to build the pyramids, carries sound faster than air or water. By treating radar signals as sound, the researchers claimed they could make the stone behave as if it were almost invisible. Malanga said that under this method, granite became more transparent than glass. After the transmission, AI was used to capture the returning echoes from underground and reconstruct them into three-dimensional forms, filtering out noise and removing human bias. The team argued that what emerged from the data was far greater than anyone would have imagined. Beneath the crushing weight of the Khafra Pyramid, the model revealed a vast hidden system. Near the base, 5 distinct structures appeared. From them, 8 perfectly vertical shafts dropped straight down like enormous stone wells. According to the analysis, these shafts plunged nearly 648 meters into the earth, far deeper than the pyramid is tall. Around each shaft, a spiral pattern wrapped downward, resembling massive staircases twisting into darkness. And still, that was not all the images revealed. Far below the limits of what the strongest signals could clearly resolve, the AI produced something even more unsettling. 2 enormous cube-shaped chambers appeared in the depths. Each cube measured roughly 80 meters on a side, a volume comparable to that of a large cathedral. They sat in complete silence, sealed in darkness, untouched for thousands of years. The researchers insisted these were not vague shapes or visual artifacts. The structures appeared repeatedly, captured from different angles and at other times. The machines agreed. The shafts were genuine. The spirals were real. The cubes were real. Together they formed what the team described as a vast underground architecture, a buried counterpart to the pyramid above, hidden for more than 4,500 years. Engineer Bayandi said this discovery was an extension of a peer-reviewed study published in 2022 about the Great Pyramid. The difference, he explained, was scale. This was the same phenomenon, but vastly larger, and that was what made it disturbing. If the pyramids were only the visible tips, then something far greater lay below. Dr. May pushed the concept much further. He connected the results with ancient writings, pointing toward the halls of Amenti mentioned in the Emerald Tablets, and toward passages in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, describing deep chambers and vertical shafts that channel light and water from above. His message was unmistakable. These were not myths, he believed, but memories, preserved records of real locations. Modern technology had finally reached them at last. The researchers then faced the unavoidable question: could this formation be natural? Some unusual effect of geology? Professor Mayango remained firm. The angles appeared exact. The repeating spirals and shafts seemed far too uniform. He insisted random chance alone could never create such intentional geometry. Still, the function of the structures remained unknown. One idea suggested they served as huge support systems, securing the pyramid into the bedrock and stopping it from slowly sinking over centuries. Another scientist examined the spirals, the shafts, and the massive cubes, and noted that, when viewed together, they looked like part of a giant machine, something similar to a resonant coil, reflecting Nikola Tesla's dreams of wireless power. Whether the remark was serious or uncertain was never explained. But the instant the news emerged, resistance began. Within hours, leading Egyptologists came forward, dismissing the claims, and pointing out what they described as critical flaws in the team's methods and conclusions. And just as suddenly as the discovery shocked the world, the controversy consumed it completely. What defines a discovery? In modern science, a true breakthrough does not start with an announcement. It begins with peer review, where independent specialists analyze the evidence, verify the techniques, and question every calculation. Only after a finding survives that process is it presented publicly. To Egyptologists, the choice by Professor Malanga's group to release their results without review was not merely unusual. It was a major red flag. It indicated the techniques had not been independently verified. The evidence had not been available for examination, and the conclusions were delivered as fact without the protections meant to detect mistakes or exaggeration. At the heart of the claim was a system called synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. The scientists maintained that their advanced application of SAR, combined with Doppler tomography, enabled them to observe through hundreds of meters of dense rock. Imaging experts responded with a direct reminder of basic physics. Satellites are powerful instruments for mapping surface features and objects hidden beneath thin sand layers. However, the energy waves they use cannot pass through thick, dry limestone and granite to the depths the group described. Dr. Sarah Parkak, a globally recognized space archaeologist who frequently works with SAR data, explained it clearly. SAR cannot see through rock. Period. Professor Lawrence Conyers, an expert in radar imaging, called the claim an extreme exaggeration of the technology's abilities. Specialists suggested that what the AI was probably identifying were not hidden rooms, but signal distortion, geological stratification, or raw digital noise created by the software itself, rather than actual structures detected by it. The assertion also directly contradicted everything already understood about the Giza Plateau, from decades of careful research using proven scientific techniques. International teams have used approaches such as muon tomography, which depends on cosmic rays naturally traveling through stone, to search for hidden spaces inside the Great Pyramid. These precise, peer-reviewed studies have located small, likely structural cavities, but nothing even close to a city extending 648 meters underground. The natural geography of Giza further weakens the claim. The water table, the underground groundwater level, is extremely high across the plateau. Any present-day excavation near the pyramids quickly floods with water. The idea of enormous, dry, untouched chambers existing 1/3 of a mile beneath the surface, far below this known water table, contradicts the location's basic physical realities. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, reinforced this argument, explaining that the pyramid stands on solid bedrock and rejecting the Bologna claims as completely false and unsupported. Examination of the researchers themselves further reduced trust in the project. The main figure, Professor Corrado Malanga, is not an archaeologist but a chemist known for extensive research on fringe subjects involving alien encounters and paranormal experiences. This background created serious doubts about the interpretation of the evidence. It indicated a tendency to interpret unclear signals as proof of something extraordinary instead of exhausting ordinary explanations first. Additionally, archaeologist Dr. Flint Dibble observed that the claim seemed to ignore the combined weight of more than 200 years of archaeological research, prioritizing an exciting story over facts established through excavation and physical evidence. The agreement within Egyptology was not careful doubt, but complete rejection. An extraordinary claim, the existence of a hidden underground civilization, requires extraordinary proof. The Bologna team provided none that could be independently verified. No original data files, no peer-reviewed research paper, only conference images and confident statements. In science, the responsibility of proof lies entirely with those making the claim. Without confirmed, repeatable evidence, the account remains exactly that: an account, a digital ghost story formed from shadows, interference, and static. So, if this AI discovery fails under examination, what does anyone truly understand about the real purpose of the pyramids? The real purpose of the pyramids. Built during the Old and Middle Kingdoms, these massive monuments were created to guard the body of the departed pharaoh forever and to stand as the heart of the royal funeral worship. This was not a guess or a story handed down through myth. It was a clear, proven truth built directly into their structure. From the earliest step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara to the smooth-sided giants at Giza, every pyramid held at its center a burial chamber. For the Great Pyramid of Khufu, built around 2600 BC, this required a long and dangerous path inward. After passing through a descending passage carved deep into the bedrock, one reaches an ascending corridor that rises sharply into the core of the pyramid. This passage leads into the Grand Gallery, a stunning corbel-vaulted hall that feels less like a building and more like a sacred pathway. At its end waits the final destination, the King's Chamber. This chamber, a flawless rectangle made from enormous, finely polished blocks of red granite quarried more than 500 meters away, holds a single item: an empty granite sarcophagus. It rests inside the room, slightly wider than the doorway that leads into it, proving it was set there during construction. Khufu's body, along with any gold, masks, or jewels, was stolen by tomb raiders in ancient times. But the sarcophagus remains unmoved, clear proof of the chamber's purpose. It was a vault, a grand, unbreakable, multi-million-ton safe built for a king's remains. Yet the pyramid was much more than a protected container. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, death was not an ending but a passage into an everlasting afterlife, where the pharaoh would rule among the gods. For this transformation to succeed, different parts of the soul needed protection. The Ka, a person's life force or spiritual twin, stayed connected to the physical body. If the body decayed or was destroyed, the Ka would vanish, and eternal life would be lost. This belief led to mummification, the careful preservation of the body, and explains why the pyramid existed in the first place. It was a stronghold for the mummy, guarding it from time, nature, and above all, human robbers. It was the ultimate guarantee of immortality. The pyramid also worked as a way to lift the king's soul toward the heavens. Another part of the soul, the bae, often shown as a bird with a human head, was believed to move freely between the tomb and the afterlife. The pyramid's shape was intentional, not simply for beauty. Many scholars saw it as a symbol of the primordial mound of creation, the first land to rise from the chaotic waters at the dawn of time. By being buried within this shape, the pharaoh was symbolically returned to the very moment of creation, granting him rebirth. Others believed the pyramid represented a frozen beam of sunlight, a monumental ramp from which the king's soul could rise directly to join the sun god, Ra-V. In this way, the pyramid acted as a divine launch platform. To support this eternal role, the Great Pyramid was never meant to stand alone on a quiet desert plateau. It was the active center of a vast industrial and religious complex, a city for the dead that relied on the living to operate. Along the eastern side of the pyramid stood the mortuary temple, where a devoted priesthood performed daily rituals for centuries after Khufu's death. Food, drink, and incense were presented to nourish the king's ka. These were not symbolic acts. The priests believed the spirit absorbed the essence of the offerings. A long covered causeway, its walls probably decorated with detailed reliefs, linked the mortuary temple to a valley temple at the edge of the Nile floodplain. This was the place where the pharaoh's body first arrived by boat in a magnificent funeral procession. The entire complex worked like a spiritual engine, with the pyramid at its center. Around it stretched a necropolis, a city of the dead, holding smaller pyramids for Khufu's queens and rows of flat-roofed tombs called mastabas for his highest officials. In death, just as in life, closeness to the king meant influence. In 1954, a remarkable discovery added another layer to this purpose. Sealed inside a rock-cut pit at the southern base of the Great Pyramid, archaeologists found the taken-apart yet perfectly preserved timbers of a 143-foot-long cedarwood boat. This was not a small symbolic replica. It was a fully working vessel, graceful and seaworthy, later rebuilt and displayed in its own museum. Known as a solar bark, the boat was meant for the dead king's journey in the afterlife, either to sail with the sun, god Ra, across the heavens, or to travel through the underworld. The pyramid offered the resting place. The boat offered the journey through eternity. The proof of all this lies not in imagined radar scans, but in the stone and paint left by the builders themselves. While the main chambers were emptied long ago, the strongest evidence still remains hidden within the structure. In 1837, a British explorer named Richard Weiss, using gunpowder to blast his way upward through the pyramid's core, uncovered a series of 4 small relieving chambers above the king's chamber. These tight spaces, never meant to be seen again, had been sealed for over 4,500 years. On the huge limestone blocks inside, painted in red ochre, were quarry marks and casual hieroglyphic graffiti. These were work notes left by the crews themselves, carrying names like the Drunkards of Menor, and most importantly, royal cartouches bearing the name of Pharaoh Khufu. One inscription famously says, "The gang, the white crown of Khufu, is powerful." This was not later damage or tourist scratching. It was original paint from the 26th century BC, placed there by a worker marking a stone meant for the king's eternal tomb. It is, quite literally, the builder's receipt. More confirmation comes from papyrus records found at the Red Sea harbor of Wadi al-Jarf. Dating to Khufu's rule, these documents describe the transport of limestone from the quarries at Tura to Giza. They mention the king directly and name an inspector, Merer, who managed the deliveries. This is not legend or theory. It is everyday administrative paperwork that supports the historical and practical story written in stone. Understanding why they were built leads to an even more astonishing question. How? The scale of the undertaking demanded not only determination, but a vast, well-organized workforce and brilliant logistics. The Lost Village. In 1990, near the Sphinx, American archaeologist Dr. Mark Lehner and his Egyptian colleague Dr. Zahi Hawass uncovered a discovery that reshaped our understanding of the pyramids. Beneath the sand rested a vast settlement, a city hidden for thousands of years. The site, now known as Hayt el-Ghurab, the lost city of the pyramid builders, covers more than 30 acres at the base of the Giza Plateau. It is the best-preserved labor complex from ancient Egypt, dating to the reigns of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, the kings who built the Great Pyramids between about 2550 and 2490 BC. This was not a slave camp. It was a carefully planned, highly organized city built with the same precision as the monuments it supported. Wide streets divided the settlement into districts. Long galleries, 30 meters in length, housed workers in orderly rows, perhaps 40 men per gallery, resting on raised mud brick platforms. Nearby, industrial bakeries baked thousands of loaves each day, while breweries contained vats large enough to ferment nearly 4,000 liters of beer at once. The workers' regular daily wage. The workers' cemetery, south of the Great Pyramid, put the final end to the slave myth. Simple yet thoughtfully built tombs held skeletons resting on their left sides, knees slightly bent, facing west toward the setting sun. Small offerings, jars, pottery fragments, and necklaces of carnelian beads were buried with them. These were not the graves of enslaved laborers. They were the graves of citizens respected for their work. Bioarchaeological studies showed that the workforce came from many regions: the Delta, Upper Egypt, and Nubia. Farmers, craftsmen, and seasonal workers traveled to Giza during the Nile's yearly flood, when their fields lay underwater. Inside the galleries, pottery shards carried hieroglyphic markings, team names, slogans, and even humor, such as the Drunkards of Mener and the Friends of Khufu. Physical evidence reveals a state-run operation functioning like a small city, with centralized supply systems. Boats carried limestone, granite, and copper along the Nile. Donkeys hauled water from nearby wells. Records from Wadi al-Jarf, a Red Sea harbor, show ship manifests organizing the movement of stone across hundreds of kilometers. Ongoing research by the Ancient Egypt Research Associates, AERA, continues to refine the picture. Drones and ground-penetrating radar uncover hidden walls and storage areas beneath the sand. In 2021, a new excavation trench revealed animal bone deposits, showing large-scale meat production sustained for decades. Seasonal rotation aligned with the Nile's floods supported the workforce. The workers were more than builders. They were part of a sacred mission. To serve the pharaoh was to serve Ma'at, the cosmic balance. Their labor was an offering. Their city, a temple without walls. Bakers, brewers, physicians, and craftsmen worked together, their efforts organized under captains and royal scribes in 10-day shifts. An early model of a centralized national workforce, Hayt el-Ghurab expanded and changed in stages, growing as pyramid construction advanced. Residue studies reveal beer flavored with honey and healing herbs, while inscribed ostraka record bread and beer counts, offering a window into daily life and management. Seen from above, the city forms a circular, ordered design radiating from the pyramids, with its layout aligned to the geometry of the Great Pyramid. The realization that enslaved people did not build the pyramids raises a deeper question. If no one was forced into labor, what inspired tens of thousands to dedicate their lives to a project that would never be theirs? By the time Khufu took the throne around 2589 BC, the Nile River governed the land. Each year its waters rose with near mystical precision, flooding farmlands for months and halting crops. During this quiet season, the pharaoh recognized opportunity, and Egypt's grand construction projects began. This was the corvée system, a state-managed program that turned farmers into builders. In a world without currency-based trade, labor became payment, and pyramid construction became a form of national taxation. Every household owed the state a share of workers or goods, and in return, laborers received food and shelter. Whenever the Nile flooded, thousands left their villages to work at Giza. Evidence of this system survives in ration lists and storage facilities. Workers received essentials: bread, beer, fish, onions, and meat. Old Kingdom papyri show daily rations reaching 10 loaves of bread and 2 jugs of beer, with extra servings of fish or beef for overseers and craftsmen. A striking comparison comes from Deir el-Medina, a later workers' village near Thebes. There, payroll ostraka record rations, rest days, disputes, and even strikes, the earliest documented labor protests. At Giza, the system worked on the same principle. The royal economy sustained the workforce, while families back home received provisions, and each man's effort was an offering to Ma'at, the cosmic balance sustaining the universe. Khufu's reign reshaped the social agreement between ruler and people. To modernize, the Great Pyramid may seem a monument to a single ruler, but to ancient Egyptians, it was a sacred bond between heaven and earth. The pharaoh was Horus incarnate. Working for him meant serving a living god. The logistics were immense. A rotating workforce of 10,000 to 20,000 men required millions of pounds of grain and livestock each year. Archaeologists have uncovered cattle and sheep remains, showing that at least 20 cows and 30 goats were slaughtered daily. According to zoo archaeologist Richard Redding, sustaining this demand required hundreds of villages, herders, farmers, millers, and transporters, all connected in a nationwide supply network. A papyrus from Wadi al-Jarf, the Red Sea harbor, preserves the diary of Merer, an official supervising limestone shipments from Tura to Giza. His detailed records of crews, timetables, and deliveries read like a modern logistics guide, and even mention Khufu by name, the only contemporary record of the pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid. The project reached far beyond Giza. Quarries in Aswan, copper mines in Sinai, and cedar imports from Lebanon show a civilization operating on an international scale long before globalization. Life in the workers' city was demanding. Skeletons reveal repeated strain, compressed vertebrae, and hernias from lifting stones, and average life expectancy was around 35. Yet many injuries healed properly, clear signs of care and treatment. But housing 20,000 workers was only one challenge. Feeding them, and above all transporting millions of multi-ton blocks from quarries to the building site, required an ancient superhighway, the mountain-moving waters. In May of 2024, a team of scientists announced a groundbreaking discovery in the journal Communications, Earth and Environment, solving one of the oldest and most enduring mysteries of the ancient world. For over 4,000 years, the pyramids of Giza have risen from a silent desert that made their construction seem almost beyond human ability. How did ancient builders move more than 2 million stone blocks, some weighing far more than a dozen tons, across what looked like a vast, dry sea of sand? The answer had been there all along, hidden just beneath the surface. Using radar satellite technology capable of penetrating layers of dry sediment, researchers traced the outline of a once powerful river. They identified a lost branch of the Nile, naming it the Aramat branch, Aramat meaning pyramids in Arabic, that once flowed directly along the western edge of the Giza Plateau. The pyramids, it turns out, were not raised in an isolated desert. They were built beside a vanished superhighway. This was not a small stream or temporary flood channel. Satellite data revealed a major river branch extending about 40 miles in length and, in places, as wide as 7 football fields. Its course ran between 1.5 and 6 miles west of the present Nile, cutting through the exact desert corridor where at least 31 pyramids were constructed over roughly 1,000 years. This single geographic breakthrough clarifies what once seemed like puzzling site decisions. The builders did not drag enormous stones across endless dunes out of some strange acceptance of hardship. They chose the most logical location available, a solid limestone plateau beside a deep, navigable waterway. The desert scene we see today is a climatic illusion. In the time of the pharaohs, Giza would have looked like a thriving river harbor. The discovery of the Aramat branch transforms pyramid construction from a land-based logistical struggle into a masterpiece of hydraulic planning. Moving massive granite blocks from quarries in Aswan, more than 500 kilometers to the south, would have been unimaginable using sledges alone. The same was true for the fine white limestone casing stones quarried east of the Nile. As Egyptologist Dr. Suzanne Einstein, a co-author of the study, explained, these enormous stones were far easier to float downstream than to pull across sand. The Aramat branch worked like a natural conveyor system. Stone blocks were loaded onto heavy cargo barges carried north by the Nile's current, and then guided into this western branch, which brought them almost directly to the building sites. The river quite literally handled the heavy work. Every major pyramid complex connects to the Nile Valley through a long, raised causeway. For years, these causeways seemed to end mysteriously in open desert, their purpose uncertain. The new research shows they run in straight, intentional lines, pointing directly toward the buried banks of the Aramat branch. They link the river's edge to the pyramid temples themselves. At the river end of each causeway stood a valley temple. Archaeologists now recognize these were not simply ceremonial buildings. They operated as working harbors. Boats loaded with stone docked here. Crews crowded the docks, unloading blocks onto wooden sledges. The causeway then became the final land route, a short engineered ramp leading straight into the construction area. Each pyramid complex was, in reality, a specially designed port facility. In 2013, archaeologists excavating at a Red Sea port called Wadi al-Jarf discovered fragments of papyrus belonging to an official named Merer. These texts, dated to the 27th year of Pharaoh Khufu's reign, are the oldest known administrative records on Earth. They detail the daily activities of a crew of about 40 men assigned the specific job of transporting the polished white limestone casing stones for the Great Pyramid. Merer's diary explains how his team loaded the stones at the Tura quarries on the eastern side of the Nile, carried them across the river, and then entered a system of canals and basins described as the entrance to the Lake of Khufu. This was not the open Nile, but an engineered harbor network, carefully dug waterways extending the river's reach directly to the Giza Plateau, likely connecting to the Aramat branch. Merer records that his crew completed this supply journey 2 or 3 times every 10 days, a large-scale logistics operation running with steady precision. What, then, happened to this vital river? Why did it disappear, leaving the pyramids stranded in sand? The answer lies in gradual climate change. When the Great Pyramids were built, the region was emerging from the African humid period, an era when North Africa was far greener and wetter than today. The Nile carried greater water volume, fed by stronger monsoon systems and spreading across its floodplain in multiple branches. Around 4,200 years ago, a major drought began. Without enough water to maintain its secondary channels, the Aramat branch started to decline. Slowly, it filled with wind-blown sand and flood-deposited silt. Over generations, the river shrank, vanished, and was buried beneath the very desert it once nourished. The pyramid's most important construction partner disappeared from view, taking the secret of its transportation system with it for more than 3,000 years. So the mystery of how they moved mountains has a powerful answer. They allowed the water to carry the burden. Yet for every question resolved, many more grow deeper. The wonders of the pyramids. In 2017, an international group of scientists working on the Scan Pyramids project made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. They had detected a huge hidden space deep inside the Great Pyramid of Khufu, a cavity they simply called the Big Void. Using an advanced method known as muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays from space to see through stone like an ultra-powerful X-ray, the team identified a void measuring at least 100 feet in length. To imagine that size, it is about as long as a commercial airplane, hanging silently above the Grand Gallery for more than 4,500 years. The function of this enormous space remains completely unknown. It is far too large to serve as a typical relieving chamber meant to redirect structural weight. Its smooth horizontal form points to intentional design rather than a natural crack. For now, it simply exists, a vast hidden space, a plane-sized question mark built into the core of the most famous monument of the ancient world. This finding was part of a transformation in how pyramids are studied. For centuries, uncovering their secrets meant invasive digging, a process that risked permanent harm to the structures. Today, teams like Scan Pyramids, a partnership between universities, engineering centers, and Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities, use non-invasive technologies such as cosmic ray muon detectors, infrared thermography, and 3D laser scanning to look inside solid stone without disturbing it. In 2023, the same team reported another careful and precisely measured discovery: a corridor-shaped void around 30 feet long, hidden behind the ancient weathered stones of the pyramid's original northern entrance. These discoveries are described with deliberate caution. Researchers call them voids or anomalies, not secret rooms or treasure chambers. Their findings and techniques are released for review, discussion, and confirmation. This slow, systematic approach sharply contrasts with dramatic headlines. It reflects the true, patient work of scientific exploration. The mysteries extend beyond the Great Pyramid. In the Pyramid of Pharaoh Sahur, constructed more than a century after Khufu's reign, a German-Egyptian restoration team applied advanced 3D LiDAR scanning to chart crumbling interior corridors in extraordinary detail. The data revealed an unexpected fact: the pyramid's original design was incomplete. The scans uncovered 8 previously unknown storage chambers concealed within the masonry, their presence lost from history after their ceilings collapsed and were buried under debris in ancient times. This discovery did not rewrite history with bold claims. It quietly refined the archaeological record, proving that even well-researched monuments still hold real secrets, waiting for the proper tools to uncover them. At Giza, new technologies are also revealing what lies beneath the sand. In the Western Cemetery, where elite officials were laid to rest, ground-penetrating radar has identified a strange L-shaped structure buried about 6 feet underground. Beneath it, the signals point to a deeper hollow area. This may indicate the entrance to an important undiscovered tomb, But archaeologists stress that radar evidence alone is not confirmation. Only careful physical excavation can verify such a discovery. A similar sense of caution surrounds the Pyramid of Menkaure, Khufu's grandson. Early scans have revealed unusual air-filled spaces behind the polished casing stones on the pyramid's eastern side. Some experts suggest this could hint at a second sealed entrance from ancient times, yet speculation remains only speculation. In archaeology, the path from a signal detected on a screen to a verified discovery is slow, deliberate, and firmly rooted in physical proof.